NASA is sending astronauts to the moon for the first time in over 50 years. The program is called Artemis, and it represents the state-of-the-art of the American space program and those of its international allies. In this video, we'll take a broad look at the Artemis moon program, what it is, how we're doing it, and why. We'll start by covering an overview of the Artemis program and its purpose. Then we'll look at the program's key hardware elements and players. Next, we'll look at the first 10 Artemis missions and what each seeks to accomplish. Finally, we'll look at the state of the Artemis program today and where it's headed in the future. When we talk about American spaceflight, we typically talk about 8 eras: Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, Skylab, Apollo-Soyuz, Space Shuttle, the International Space Station, and now Artemis. Apollo was our first moon program. Our second is Artemis, and in Greek mythology, Artemis is the sister of Apollo. During the Apollo program, we put teams of 2 astronauts down on the lunar surface, and the longest stay on the surface was just 3 days. During Artemis, we'll send teams of up to 4 astronauts to the lunar surface for weeks and months at a time. During their visit to the moon, astronauts will build a space station in lunar orbit and a space station on the lunar surface. We'll use these moon bases to conduct scientific research, to build a lunar economy, and to utilize lunar materials to create fuel and supplies to explore deeper into the solar system. And unlike Apollo, the Artemis program will land the first woman, person of color, and non-American astronauts on the surface of the moon. The Artemis program is composed of several key hardware elements. The first and the core of the program is the Space Launch System, often called SLS, or the Big Orange Rocket. SLS is the most powerful rocket in the world by payload capacity, and it will launch astronauts from Earth to the moon in the Orion capsule. The Orion space capsule is the largest capsule ever built and will carry 4 astronauts to the moon and eventually beyond. Once astronauts arrive to the moon in Orion, they'll dock to the Gateway Lunar Space Station. Gateway is a smaller version of the International Space Station that will be built in orbit around the moon. Its hardware elements are already in production around the country and around the world. From Gateway, astronauts will take the Human Landing System down to the surface, or HLS. HLS is manufactured by 2 commercial providers, SpaceX and Blue Origin, on contract for NASA. SpaceX is manufacturing an HLS called Starship, and Blue Origin an HLS called Blue Moon Mark II. Each of these commercial landers is several times larger than the Apollo landers, and they'll enable us to bring tons of material down to the surface and back from the moon to Earth. Once on the surface, astronauts will have access to a convertible-style lunar terrain vehicle that 3 commercial companies are currently competing to build. They'll also start to build the Lunar Surface Station. The first module of the Lunar Surface Station is the Japanese pressurized rover, built by JAXA, or the Japanese Space Agency. It's built in partnership with NASA and in partnership with Toyota. The second element of the Lunar Surface Station is a multi-purpose habitation module, built by the Italian Space Agency in partnership with NASA and Thales Alenia. The multi-purpose habitation module is another wheeled habitat that astronauts will be able to live and work in. While they're on the surface, astronauts will wear the AX-EMU moonsuit built by Axiom Space. On contract, Axiom is continuing NASA's Lunar Surface Suit program in partnership with Prada, who's designing materials for the suit, and Oakley, who's designing the visor. In addition to the key hardware elements we just discussed, there are also several smaller programs, like the Commercial Lunar Payload Services program, where commercial companies are putting smaller landers on the surface of the moon to conduct scientific research in preparation for the human landings. The Artemis program is also composed of key players from around the world. There are 5 core space agencies contributing to the program from around the world. They include the space agencies from the United States, Canada, Europe, Japan, and the United Arab Emirates. There are also countless commercial companies contributing to the program, including SpaceX, Blue Origin, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Intuitive Machines. In fact, there are so many commercial companies assisting the Artemis program that even just a single hardware element, like the Space Launch System rocket, has suppliers in all 50 states. That means someone in your home state is contributing to the Artemis program. So what will each Artemis mission do exactly? There are currently about 10 missions planned for the next decade and a half. Artemis I launched in November 2022 and was the first flight of the Artemis program. It was an unmanned test flight around the moon for 25 days that tested the Space Launch System rocket and the Orion capsule. Artemis II is scheduled for Friday, February 6, 2026 at 9:41 p.m. and will be the first crewed flight to the moon since Apollo. This flight will carry 4 astronauts around the moon to test the life support and docking systems on the Orion spacecraft. The 4 astronauts for the Artemis II mission are Reed Weissman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen. And together, they'll become the first person of color, first woman, and first non-American to visit the moon. Artemis II, scheduled for 2027, is planned to be the first landing on the surface of the moon of the current program. Artemis IV will be the first time astronauts dock with the Gateway Lunar Space Station. Artemis V will include the delivery of the Lunar Terrain Vehicle and will be the first time astronauts drive on the surface of the moon since Apollo. Artemis VI will see continued construction of the Gateway Space Station. Artemis VII will see delivery of the Japanese pressurized rover to the surface of the moon and the start of the Lunar Surface Station. Artemis VIII will support the delivery of the Multi-Purpose Habitation Module, the second module of our Lunar Surface Station. Artemis IX will include the first launch of the second-generation Space Launch System rocket, which will overtake the first-generation SLS as the most powerful rocket flying today. Finally, for Artemis X and beyond, astronauts will begin making long-duration stays on the surface of the moon for periods as long as 6 months. So what is the state of the Artemis program today? Well, we completed one Artemis mission so far, and the first mission with crew is scheduled just a few weeks from the time of recording of this video. Artemis III is scheduled to be the first landing of the Artemis program. However, while all the hardware elements are ready for the landing, we're still waiting for the lander itself. The lander itself is being manufactured by SpaceX and Blue Origin, and both companies are working to accelerate their schedules to meet the upcoming deadline in 2027, and if not ready by 2027, be ready by Artemis IV in 2028. NASA also recently announced their intent to solicit a lander from a third company. If all that goes well, we'll see a landing on Artemis III in 2027 or Artemis IV in 2028. If a lander isn't ready in 2027, some speculate that NASA will use the Artemis III launch hardware to conduct another lunar flyby to complete progressive objectives in pursuit of a landing. So now that we've covered a beginner's introduction to the Artemis program, what resources are there to follow the missions in real time? My favorite resources are NASA's social media sites, the NASA Image and Video Library, and NASA News. My favorite source here on YouTube is Philip Slosh, and I'll link his channel in the description below. And there's a great video by Digital Astronaut that I'll also link describing the Artemis II mission. And finally, I'll try to continue to post Artemis updates throughout the year. And I always appreciate likes and subscriptions, as they'll help these videos reach a larger audience. If you want to get directly involved with the Artemis program and you're a student or educator, head over to NASA's STEM Gateway website, where they post hundreds of internships, many of them directly involved with the Artemis program itself. Or you can look at usajobs.gov or through one of the contractors that works with NASA, including KBR, Jacobs, or Boeing. In conclusion, Artemis is a cutting-edge program and a pivotal moment in history. It is truly the most ambitious thing humans have ever done, and I hope you're as excited about it as I am. That's all for now, and next time I hope to see you on the surface of the moon.